Okay, we're live, apparently. The live button is there. So I was
We did
able
it.
to somewhat figure this out. I still have no idea what I'm doing, so we're just rolling with it as best we can. But that works for me. What books
It
do
is
you
what it is,
have
right?
if you do decide that you're gonna read instead
If
of
I
write?
do decide when I'm gonna read, so I got my two big ones left for the month. I'm almost finished with Becoming a Druid, but of course I'm doing my buddy read of Guardians of the Moon.
Yeah.
Uh, got a few chapters in on this, and then of course the Lions of Outer
Have you
Sun.
started?
I haven't started on this one yet,
Okay, I'm
but
only like 9 pages in. So
oh, okay.
it's nothing too impressive.
Oh, geez. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
we'll get to it when we get to it, right? We still have half a
yeah.
month going.
Yeah, I figure hopefully I'll be able to get to it more in this upcoming week. I started Best Served Cold, which is one of the standalones for First Law. And then I decided for some reason to start listening to Eye of the World on audiobook. And I was like, that's not a big endeavor by any means.
No, no, not at all, right?
Exactly.
Just a weekend read, right?
Exactly. Hey, Britain. Hey,
Hey,
Dan.
Britton,
Um,
Dan,
so yeah,
Dan,
it's
you
just
jumping on?
yeah, Dan, you want to come on with us? If you do, you're more than welcome to. Um, but yeah, I've started Eye of the World like 2 or 3 times in my physical copy and then got caught up with grad school and got caught up with like everything else in life and was like, okay, I'll get around to it whenever I get around to it. And the further I got away from it, I was like, did I actually like this book? I was like, I'm gonna actually just sit back and try to read it and like see if I do like it, hey Rook, and go from there. And so far, I'm like 60-40, I feel like, for my likings of this book. But I don't know yet. I don't know. But you've read Wheel of
Okay,
Time, haven't you?
I have read Wheel of Time, but I read it like as one of my first fantasies.
Okay.
So I think it hits me different than somebody like you who's read tons of other books and
Sure.
read other series, and then you're coming kind of back into a kind of a there's a lot of datedness to the Wheel of
Yeah.
Time for sure, and I'll be admit that as much as I enjoyed the series as a whole, um, but and plus when I read it, the books weren't all out. I think
Okay.
I started like I think when I started, I think it was up to book 6. So
All
yeah,
right.
years and years and years ago. And I'm waiting on those books like every 1 or 2 years.
That's fun though.
And it was a lot of fun, and it's a lot of my 20s and into my 30s. So it was a big part of my life. So I think despite some of the flaws, and especially when you hit
Yeah.
the middle book area, um, I still accepted it for what it was, but I'm glad I read it, and
Mhm.
I would be I'd be curious about going back after I read a lot more fantasy.
Yeah, that's kind of the conversation my husband and I were having yesterday is that he's read all of Wheel of Time except for the last couple of books because he really didn't love how Sanderson took the series. So he did a Sparks Notes version of the end, basically. But he and I were talking about the fact that we feel like if that's one of your first fantasy reads, it probably hits differently than it does if it's something that you come to much later. But I also feel like that's the same about Mistborn. Like so many people say Mistborn is their first fantasy or it's the fantasy that like got them back into reading. So it's one of those things that I'm like it could be for multiple fantasy series really that anyone could say that, but those are the two that I feel I see it the most frequently about. Thank you, Dan. I
I
like being
need a
able to see.
I have to wear glasses for any kind of screen, so Yeah, we would love to have both you and Britt on there too. He
Yeah.
said he's gonna go see a movie. But yeah, I need him. I need him for any kind of screen driving. But the majority of the time, I don't have him on. Like when I read, I actually take them off.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I'm very like what is it, nearsighted? I'm nearsighted, so
Okay.
like screens would be kind of blurry for me and all that. But what movie are you gonna see, Britt? Are you still on, or did you jump off?
Yeah, I'm curious. It's like the Oppenheimer Barbie extravaganza that's like happening, I think, isn't it? Like, isn't that what we're coming up to? Which
So you're a fellow archaeologist. Did you watch Indiana Jones?
I haven't seen the newest one, but I will say I'm more interested in this one than I was the last one because I really like Phoebe Waller-Bridge. But I don't know. Have you seen it?
I did. Yeah.
And was it any good?
I will say I like the fourth one better.
Okay, interesting.
There was things that they did with this fifth one that I'm like, really, did you have to go back into this? Yeah, a lot of it has to do with his relationship with Marion.
Okay,
And that's all I'll say. I mean,
sure.
it's a satisfying ending, and I think it just needs to kind of stop now.
Yeah, I
I
think
love
this
Indiana
is
Jones.
supposed to
Indiana
be
Jones is one of my favorites, but it
same.
needs
I
to
think
stop.
this is supposed to be the final one.
Yeah.
Of the original three, though, like which one tends to be your favorite?
That's tough. I think it's Last Crusade over
Raiders.
Raiders. Yeah.
Okay. My husband's the same way, and I'm all about Raiders. Like Raiders for me. It's kind of
But
unfortunate because
yeah,
it's the first one.
it's really tough because I there were so many things to Raiders. I don't know. It's tough. I don't know. But I got to go Last Crusade. I think it's because it's the first one I think saw in the movies where I was old enough to, and I think the other two I only saw on, well, back in then those days, like VHS. So
Yeah, I definitely my family had them on VHS. It's our mode of watching them. But no, my husband has a thing that every Christmas he wraps gifts and like watches Last Crusade. It's his like thing that he does, and I'm like, you do you. It's a fine movie, but I'm all about Raiders all day, every day. So,
it's really close. I mean, it's really close for me. I could equally probably, I would say. I mean, that's a cop out, but yeah, maybe. And like I said, I think the thing with Last Crusade, it was the first movie I saw in the theater, you know, and of course it's better in the theater than back in those days. You had a box TV, you didn't even have a
yes.
widescreen TV, you know, so
That's
but
true.
definitely the experience was better with the Last Crusade, I should say.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, we joke about like sayings and things that our daughter is never going to experience just because technology is so advanced now. And the one that I keep coming back to is hang up the phone. I'm like, she's not going to have any concept of why we say this. But the box TVs and stuff too. It's a different era. So yeah.
Me.
Who cried at the end of Harry and Henderson? Dan, are you sure you don't want to join us? You're welcome to. So what are you thinking you want to do? Do you want to sprint until like 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock my time, or do you want to go till 30 and do like a longer sprint?
um I'm okay. I'm good with either. I already kind of know where I'm going to start.
Sure.
I
All good.
will get right into it. But I know the what I plan to write is going to be, you know, on the shorter side. So it's up to you if you want to. We can go long or short.
Why
And
don't
then
we do sprinting till 10? And
which
we'll do
is
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sounds good? All right.
Yep.
See you then.
See you then.
All right. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. I'm a little sweaty. We just got back from the fair, so
Fun.
yeah.
That's super fun. Okay, how do I get rid of this now? There we go. I'm slowly figuring out technology. It's quite a task.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
I mean, I got a banner up. I got a batter down. I don't know how much better it's gonna get than that. And I've had people come in and into the chat, so I feel like I've mastered.
Yeah, I mean,
it's done. You're ready. You're ready for live interviews now.
Ready for going. Oh, so exciting. What was all happening at the fair? Is it like a county fair?
Oh yeah, it's like a 4-H fair. So we've
Explain
been
to a Canadian what that means.
It's just like the pigs
Anything.
and the cows and the horses.
Okay.
They had bouncy houses. That's all my kids wanted to do. So it's just me standing in 85-degree heat, watching them jump around.
The best. How old are your kids?
My oldest is 9, 7, and then my daughter is 5. Just turned 5.
Those are fun ages.
Yeah, very energetic.
I like to think that they sleep at that age because I've got a 1-year-old and I'm like, it's coming.
It'll be here soon.
Yes.
My first child, they just always slept through the night, like ever since he was like 6 months old.
The unicorn baby.
Mm-hmm. The other two, not even remotely.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time the first child like lures you in and you think, oh, that's how they're all gonna be, and then the universe is like, no, this is how we've got you guys to keep procreating.
And then number 2 comes along and it is not that at all.
Exactly. So did you get much done, Chris?
I did, yes. It was I did have a few things to do. I'm captain of a readathon.
Who are you?
Yeah. So I've gotten a lot of submissions. So the first 10 minutes was trying to get record those, and you have to check to see the reviews they put in, make sure they got all their points and all that. So, but yeah, otherwise, I got right into the second portion of this jumble mess that I'm writing currently. How about you?
I did. I think I got like just shy of 1,000 words done. So, but like I have no structure to what I'm writing. Like I know some people are very planned and I admire those people. I sit down and it's just like word vomit with my keyboard. But yeah. What genre are you guys all working on?
You can go first, Chris.
Okay. Just it's kind of epic, fantasy-esque kind of thing. I have in mind 5 separate, kind of storylines. So I do see it kind of like maybe 5 books.
Okay.
Yeah. What is that? A quintet? I don't even know. Yeah. So I'm sure it might end up being 4. I don't know, but I'm got a good beginning and end to both, and I got a final end in my head. It's just a matter of writing the first book.
Yeah, that's exciting. And how about you?
Yeah, multiple POVs and all that.
Love that.
Nice. I've got 2 things I'm working on. There are two things. They're very different stages. I'm editing I want to call it a horror fantasy novella.
Okay.
It has a lot of psychedelic elements. It's weird. But I'm in the editing phases for that, so I'm being really critical of sentence structure and all that. And then I'm in the first draft of a science fiction novella, probably. The concept is basically, what if it was Harry Potter, but instead of being wizards, they're learning how to be mech pilots. So
cool.
They're going to giant robot school.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Very, very fun.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what mood I'm in yet. So we'll see if I feel like writing or if I feel like being editor.
Sure. Yeah. It's hard to get work done, I feel like, in the evening on any day, let alone a weekend when you're just like probably been doing stuff all day.
It's a bit of a struggle for me because I feel like creatively I'm way more active at night. Like 9 to midnight, like that's my creative time. But being a parent, I am tired
I was-
at 9
I
o'clock.
was gonna say probably it's probably that way with parents that that's just your time.
Yeah, you kind of have to monopolize it as best you can. I definitely feel that. It'll be like 10 o'clock and I'm like, oh, I want to do something, but I'm like, or I should probably go to
Or I can go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Yeah.
call
So
it.
what you so what I'm
Sorry.
hearing is from no, I was gonna say so what I'm hearing from you two is I have no excuse since I have no kids.
Yeah, right.
No.
Your quintet should be done.
It should have been written years ago.
So I just try to do kind of like a domino effect of like, if I do a little bit each day, it will get done eventually. So
Sure. I mean, that's the best way to tackle it, right? Is at least you're getting a little bit done each day. Like I'm lucky if I get in something like every few days.
yeah, my broad goal, it goes up and down. It's been down a lot lately, but my broad goal is like doing a page of something. So whether it's a page of editing, a page of writing. So
That's good. That's a good goal. I feel
Yeah.
like that's a realistic goal too. It's not like
because realistically, that's like 20 minutes of work max. So yeah, that's what I try and do.
Exciting.
Hmm?
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you.
I look at anything, even if it's like 100 words, it's like good day.
I did something. So.
You got something on a page,
Further than I was yesterday.
That's the thing. Like all of these authors, Neil Gaiman is one of my favorites for this stuff, and he's like, you can be writing absolute shit as long as you're writing. Like that's what really is important. It's that you keep doing it because then eventually you'll get to the stuff that is good. So even if it's 100 words, that's a win.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even look at what I'm writing right now as even a draft right now. It's just getting the words down on the screen. And then I'll look at to my first draft.
Do you have a goal as to like when you want your first draft to sort of be finished by, or are you kind of just letting it go to its pace?
It's tough with me with goals because I never meet them when it comes to writing. I'm aiming for the end of the year. But
Yeah.
I have a first draft of it's a trunk novel of epic fantasy. So I want to get back to it someday, but I also like read it. This needs completely rewritten beginning to end. So
When did you write that one?
I started in 2018 and finished early 2021, like
Okay.
February 2021, I think. So
That's a commitment.
3/4 of it was written during COVID. So
You could have had your own secret projects.
yeah, I could have done my own secret project, but like I have nothing to do. I was like, well, I guess now's the time.
Did either of you back any of did you back the Sanderson Kickstarter at all or not really?
I didn't, just because I'm reading The Final Empire right now, and that's only the second book I've read of
Oh, right.
Sanderson.
Yeah. Like you also just started. Okay. And Chris,
Yeah.
have you been reading Sanderson long or not really?
Not really. No, I read the last 3 books of the Wheel of Time. I DNF'd Way of Kings twice. And yeah, and like Caleb, I'm reading The Final Empire now, and it's okay.
I had major problems with Way of
it's,
Kings.
It's good. I mean, Mistborn is good. I can understand why people like it, but I'm just maybe not understanding the hype.
I think it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, right? It's like I feel that Mistborn for a lot of people is the book that gets them into fantasy or back into fantasy. So for them, it's this like mind-blowing experience. And they're like, oh, Mistborn, it's like one of the best fantasy series I've ever read. It's same for Wheel of Time in that way. But they both have flaws and issues, I feel like. Obviously, like I haven't read all of Wheel of Time, so I can't comment on it. And without like being spoilery for Mistborn, a lot of people find that the end of Mistborn is just this like they like to call it the Sanderlanche, where all of this stuff comes in at the end, and you're like, wow, I never was expecting that. And I was kind of like, it's okay.
I heard
the trilogy or the first book.
The end of the trilogy. Of the 3 books, I think book 2 is the best for me because it's more politics, and I really like political fantasy. So for me, that's kind of more my thing. But I really don't like the way he writes fight scenes, I've come to realize. Like I didn't like it in Way of Kings, and I didn't like it in Mistborn, because in Mistborn I found it really repetitive with like they're burning this and they're pulling this and they're pushing this. I was like, we get it. Like, you know.
And yeah, that's I think that my big overall critique of the Final Empire thus far is like, I don't care, and like I'm 3/4 of the way through, and I'm still learning about how magic works. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I get it.
And you'll get that pretty much in every book. Like by book 3, I was like, he cannot be still explaining this to me. Why are you doing that? My watch likes to start talking to me at random points. But yeah, no, it's just I found it to be a little much. Yeah, Rogue, I hear what you're saying.
Yep, Rogue, I totally get it.
Yeah. Hey, Usman, come join us.
Yeah, come join.
And then the other thing too is like, fantasy. I think you'd said before that the Final Empire feels like YA, and I 100% agree it does.
Yeah.
And I've struggled reading YA anyway.
Yeah,
and
I feel like it has to be a particular kind of YA for me to read it. Like I really liked Six of Crows. I thought that was fun because I like a heist story, and I mean, even though Mistborn kind of is a heist story in the first one, the tropes of like the romance and stuff for Mistborn are very YA for me. But when you get into the later books, the themes overall for the story really aren't YA. So it's a weird melding of the two that you're like, I don't really know where to put this in my brain, because stuff that's happening in the book is very YA, but then thematically it's not YA at all. So it's a weird line, I feel like, when you're reading that series.
Yeah, and I feel like the main romance of the book right now, like every time it comes up, I'm like,
Sanderson doesn't write romance very well, in my personal opinion.
I heard he writes endings really well though. So
yeah, so we'll see. It's a struggle for me right now. I'm about 80% of the way through it, and I'm pushing through because like there's a few scenes I really like, and I really like the world building at large.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I don't like. I think if I wasn't reading with you, Chris, I probably would have DNF'd it by now.
No, it's all good, and you let me know, because I'm kind of feeling the same way, honestly.
Like I said, I at least want to give book 2 a try, because like everyone's like, oh my god, book 2.
That's kind of where I'm heading to. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like I'm in the minority for finding book 2 to be the best one. I think a lot of people go 3, 1, 2, because they find that book 2 is slower. I'm fine with slow. Like I actually really like slow. I feel like that's probably why I like First Law so much, because it's more of a character-driven story than plot-driven story. But that's not everyone's thing. I get that.
I love a good slow burn, but slow burns like have to feel like they're building to something.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm hit and miss on character focused stories, because if I feel like it's going somewhere, I'm like, okay, we'll see what this is. And then, but if it's just characters and the interpersonal drama, I'm like,
yeah, I hear you.
I'm getting better with character-driven stories a little bit. I've read a couple decent ones recently that really clicked with me pretty well. So, but I used to really need like that plot, like where are we going with this, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which stories recently? I'm sorry, Caleb.
Oh no, you're good.
What'd you say?
Which stories recently have you found the case for?
Recommend Seeds of War by Joel Silva. He's a self-pub author.
Nice.
It's very
What's up, bub?
character driven focus. The characters are like some of the characters I've never seen in fantasy
Well,
before.
that's cool.
Now, and then the crew was also really good. Now that does have a plot. It has a heist story to it. The plot itself is nothing like spectacularly new,
Sure.
but the characters are so freaking off the wall that I think that's what carried me through the story. It was so good with the characters.
Love that. Have you read anything good like that recently, Caleb, or not really?
Yeah, I'd say the real character driven thing I've read recently that I really enjoyed was Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb.
Okay.
The first 25% I was a little shaky on. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but well, after that, I just kind of fell in love with it, and I loved all the characters. And there's this inkling that the whole series is gonna go somewhere, but I wouldn't say like a ton happened in Assassin's Apprentice. I
Right.
still loved the vast majority of it.
My husband just read it. I got him 6 or 7 fantasy books for Christmas last year, and he's been making his way through them while like putting Star Trek books in between each read. And he is not one that likes resolutions by using magic.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a hard time with Hobb, but I haven't read her yet. And I've heard that other than Abercrombie, people feel that she is the best present author for character work. So I'm excited to try her. I'm hoping to get in Assassin's Apprentice over the next few months.
Yeah, and I definitely see his critique on like solving things with magic. It's so I would say the reason it was okay for me was the magic is so ambiguous, and I still feel like I don't really understand it. Where I feel like the rest of the books I'm going to be learning about it, so I feel like there's still this conflict of like learning how the world actually works. Because Fitz basically doesn't understand what happened either. At least that's the vibe I got from the end. So
from what I've understood too, like Fitz isn't in all of the trilogies. So I don't really know how the Realm of the Elderlings works all that well, but like it seems that some trilogies have him and then some don't.
yeah, if I keep in mind, I've only read Assassin's Apprentice, so I have no idea. But based on what I've heard from Colin and from Ben, Live Ship Traders is totally separate.
Yeah.
I read them a long time ago when she kind of first wrote them. I want to get back into the series, maybe not this year, but late next year. I was thinking 2024. It's a commitment because it's 16 books. But I do want to read her again.
I would read that with you.
I loved Live Ship Traders. That was top Hobb for me.
Rogue is saying he's the main character of 3 trilogies, I think. And I think that does sound correct.
He's only not in the Live Ship Traders, which is ironically my favorite series.
Well, that's the thing. I've seen some people that really love the Fitz storylines and then some people that hate them. And I think it was a chat with Murphy Napier and Mike's book review, and they were saying, I think Murphy said like she can't stand the Fitz storylines, but loved Live Traders, and Mike was like, no, I couldn't stand Live Traders, and I really like the Fitz storylines. So it's funny, certain things will resonate differently with different people.
I liked both pretty much, but the Dragon series, the quartet, I always forget the name of it, Wildlings or something like that. I mean, that was for me the weakest, but it was still okay. It was a good read,
Yeah, it's nice when you find an author too that like their worst you feel like is still substantially better than most other people's best work. So you're like still gonna be a really good read even if it's not their best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the general sentiment I've gotten about Fitz from the community that I found is most people like really cannot stand Fitz, but love the books.
That's so funny.
There's a lot of I feel like books where people don't like the main character, and the rest of the supporting cast and the world just carries the rest of the book.
Sure.
Like in the beginning, I didn't really care for. I think it was if you guys read the Red Rising series.
I have not.
I didn't really care for. I don't really care for the main character too much
I've heard a lot of people
Right.
don't actually. So
But the supporting cast and the plot and everything else, the world is great. It's fantastic. Yeah.
I really want to get the Red Rising here soon. So
there's so many books.
so many.
There's a lot of books.
So many.
All the books.
All right. Do we want to get to sprinting and maybe say on the hour?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Perfect. So let's get them. Hello. Welcome back.
Here we are. I was like, I had so many tabs open because I have like my reference notes open. I have like, I use. Do you guys use Campfire or any kind of like software for like kind of keeping track of your stuff?
Good
No.
old Google Docs.
Yeah.
I'm a planner. I'm a big planner. I wish I wasn't. I wish I could just write sometimes, but sometimes I need to use my reference.
I wish I was a bit more of a planner, honestly, because like sometimes I can get really scattered, but then other times I'm like, it's good because I'm writing what I feel like needs to be written, but then other times I'm like, this is incoherent garbage.
Now I will say I'm getting better at like just writing. Like I'll have some bullet points like that I want to hit, and as long as my characters are going to kind of get to hit those points that I really think are important,
Yeah,
then they can do whatever they want when I write. Yeah.
that's fair.
I kind of have to make myself be a planner. I think instinctually I just want to write, but I know from writing that novel I told you guys about that when I actually sat down and like wrote out what the chapters were going to be about, I wrote so much faster. Even though a lot of times my outlines are very vague. Like when I wrote my novella, one of the chapters is this character hallucinates, and that was it. That was the entire description I had. But I find in general just having a course really helps me be more productive.
Yeah, I would say like when I did my academic writing, I was really organized. So like when I did my thesis, it was like had all my chapters and then like my sub points in each chapter. So I know how to do it. I just don't choose to do it with fun writing, I guess.
That's why I think I'm not cut out for grad school. Is because I definitely did not put that much effort into academic papers. When my wife and I are in school, we had two very different approaches to preparing for the semester. She was a good student, so she would go through her syllabus and like write down when everything's due in her little planner. And I'd be like, okay, I can skip that assignment and still pass. I can skip that and still pass. I can skip that and still pass. And as long as I get perfect on the final, I'll be fine.
Oh geez. Yeah, I was the exact opposite. I had one of those big calendars on my wall that were like 3 feet. Like they were really, really big. And I had the erasable marker and would write when everything was due. So I had it right next to my desk and I could visually see it like every time I sat down. But my intention was during my undergrad to go to grad school. So I was like, I know I need to hit this minimum GPA. Like I need to do this. I need to do this. So like if ever there was a Ravenclaw, it's me. So, like, that's very much part of my person. Like I'm that. So yeah, but apparently can't get organized for writing, creative writing.
I think I consider myself a Ravenclaw too, but probably more towards the Luna Lovegood sort of Ravenclaw. Like,
I love Luna.
Let's just see what happens, kind of thing. But
I retook the house tests. I always came up Slytherin, so.
Oh,
I'm the only Ravenclaw in my family. Like my husband's Slytherin. My mom took the test 3 times because she kept insisting. She's like, I'm definitely a Ravenclaw. And it came back Slytherin every single time. I was like, gotta just accept it and move on.
Well, I feel it. I understand what your mom's paying. So
I get a mix because I have such a love for animals. So I think I sometimes get the Hufflepuff a couple times, but it's usually Ravenclaw because I just in my own little world, and we do our own little things over here in Ravenclaw world.
Yes, we do. I'm a big animal lover too, though. We've got 5 rescue cats, so I'm definitely with you on that front. We're those weird cat people, but it works for us.
That's okay. You can't have just one cat.
It's like potato chips. Can't have just one. Do you have cats?
No, but my sister is a big cat person and she has 3. So, and she has the least amount of cats of the cat people I know.
Chris, do you have any animals?
Yes, we have a dog. He is half corgi and half black lab.
What a
So
combo.
yeah, he's definitely more of the corgi because he's got the shorter legs.
Okay.
But he's got the kind of like the head of the lab, but still the pointy ears of the corgi.
I need to see a photo of this dog.
Corgi always takes over everything. If you ever look
Yeah.
at corgi and anything else blended, it's always it looks like a corgi, but it has like the coat of every other dog.
Yeah, my best friend has 2 corgis and they are so saucy and so funny. I love them. They're
I love
hysterical
corgis.
dogs.
Yeah, we would
and
have.
then I got a kitty too, but yeah.
Nice.
I think we would be more open to having pets, but we live in an apartment right now, and that's just a pain.
3 kids and pets could definitely
gonna
be a
Yeah,
lot.
bad
I
combo.
was like, you already got your pets.
Yeah, I've got
Yes.
3 pets. I'll just go
Yeah,
to
me
jail if I don't
too.
take care of them.
Absolutely. No, like I look at my kid and I'm like, there's one of you and 5 of them. Like this is mayhem. Yeah, but she loves them. She absolutely goes nuts for them. So
I know. I grew up. My house was small growing up, but my parents had 2 huge dogs. They had a box and a German Shepherd. So like I'm used to being around dogs.
those are big dogs, yeah.
My kids aren't though. So like initially when they went over to my parents' house, like, ugh. But now my youngest one, she just has those dogs wrapped around her finger. So,
Oh, that's the best. I love that. So what did you all get done during your sprints?
I got a good amount. Let me see. I'm trying to remember how many words I had last time. Maybe 600.
Nice.
Yeah, I got about 400 words written, and I completed a chapter. So now I'm outlining the next chapter.
Very organized.
I'm very
Yeah.
organized. I know. Planning ahead.
Very organized. I don't even want to look back right now. I'm scared.
Well,
I'm
I was
scared
telling myself I'm
of
going to
that
outline
crap.
the whole thing, and then I'll start writing. And then at some point, I was just like, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to start.
That's actually a good way of doing it, chapter by chapter, rather than like 20 chapters in advance kind of thing, because
So much is
it'll
going to change.
change. It'll
Mhm.
change whether you want it to or not.
Yeah, I'm going chapter by chapter as much as I can. And then the only thing I try to do this is how unorganized I am. Whenever I sit down, I reread the last like paragraph of my last chapter and I'm like, okay, just to make sure I remember where I am and how we can jump in. But
Yep.
other than that, it's just chaos.
Yeah, I have to leave myself like little notes. So like I'll be writing like once I get to like my word count or I'm done for the day, I'm like, oh, by the way, this is the next thing that happens. That way when I sit down and read, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Do you guys have multiple POVs, or do you have one? Or
This book is 1 POV. My novella is 2. So
I think mine started as 1, but it's now gonna it needs to have 2. Because there's like a ridiculous quest that's taking part in my story, and the main POV, she's not going to be involved in the quest, so I need someone that is. So they have just been introduced. Like I just wrote their introduction tonight. So I'm gonna see like how often I'm gonna go back and forth between them. It might just be like a few POVs throughout the whole thing, and it's mostly just one, but I'm not sure yet because I'm not organized.
what's your guys' favorite POV to write in or read in? So
I have 4 going on right now. So something I don't know if I had this conversation with you yet, Laura, but so what happened was in the beginning I was writing from there's a husband and wife thing, and I was writing from the POV of the husband, and then something happened where the wife just had the better, more interesting storyline. So I switched POVs right now, and it's in her POV kind of thing.
Okay.
So I don't want to have yet another POV. So when I go back to write that draft, I think I am able to pretty easily switch everything that was his point of view to her point of view. I think with these, of
Interesting.
course, it's going to be a different voice, of course. So a lot of that's going to change, but that inner dialogue is definitely going to change. It's going to be a little interesting. But
Yeah, I didn't know that.
yeah, it was just it's weird how things like that happen, you know, where you just have this idea and then it just changes. You know, it's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and she's like, I want my voice and I have a better storyline. I'm like, all right, well.
All right, fine.
Yeah, I mean, I have a one. So I'm doing a satirical sci-fi that's basically I've come to realize that I am a very sarcastic person, and no matter how often I try to write serious stuff, like I just can't. It comes across as very satirical. So my overarching theme is that it is a supreme overlord that's like trying to take over the universe, who is trying to model himself as a modern day King Arthur. And instead of just going in and slaughtering these 150 planets, he's giving them the opportunity to select a champion to find the Holy Grail. And if you find it, your planet is saved basically from slaughter. And my main POV is this character that he's beamed up from Earth, who is an Arthurian specialist. And when he comes to selecting the way to select the champions from each planet, he asks her for her advice, and she says, coming from Earth, like being selected by a cat, you feel incredibly special, and you know, like you're the ultimate choice, the ultimate human. So I have one POV chapter that's from like the POV of a cat. So it's like you
love it.
have
Awesome.
weird stuff that just
Oh,
kind
that
of shows up,
That's awesome.
you know, and you're like, okay, never really thought I would write something like this. It sounds ridiculous, but it works in the overall flow of the story. So yeah, it's just weird.
I have one character in my novella. Speaking of just very weird POVs, she's a drug addict to some fantasy drug. And initially, the concept is when you take it, it gives you like really intense hallucinations, and then as you're depraved of it, the hallucinations get worse.
Oh, interesting.
Oh wow.
And
Wow.
so she spends a good half of the novella totally without it. So the mystery is all this crazy spooky stuff real, or is she just unraveling? So that was a lot of fun to just kind of I would really just get to points where I'm like, I don't know what to do now, so I would just write the most balls to the wall crazy thing I could think of. So that was fun.
That is fun though. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I love about fantasy and sci-fi, is that like there's no real restriction, right? Like there's not really restriction in like any form of writing, I guess, but like fantasy and sci-fi just allow you to access that extra little bit of creativity in your brain, and you're like, there are no rules, which is so
Well,
fun. I love it.
Yeah. I will say once you make your own rules, you kind of have to keep your own rule. But
Exactly.
yeah, you get to initially make your own rule, whatever you want it to be. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to create those boundaries, if you have a magic system and like all that kind of stuff, which like I appreciate so much when authors say like, this is the magic system, these are the rules, and they can't be altered. Like I have a really difficult time when I'm reading, and then like all of a sudden it's like a scenario comes up, so the magic changes to like fit that scenario. I'm like, except it shouldn't, like it can't. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I could never write realism. I would be always worried that like I get a street name wrong, or I get like how far a building or like some sort of monument is from where I'm setting the story, and you'll have that one person go, well, actually it's supposed to be over here, you know, and you're like, it's like, whoops.
That's why I struggle too.
I could never write realism. No way. Too much
Oddly
research.
enough, I feel like realism requires a lot more attention to detail than fantasy. Because again, like you're kind of in charge of the rules in fantasy, but I find when I write realism, I'm always like, well, like they got into the car. Well, what car was it? And I feel like I have to know things about cars, which I don't. So
Yeah. With fantasy, you can make up the cards.
Yeah.
It's definitely I find there's more flexibility with that for sure. Which
Mhm.
I mean, everyone finds their niche or their genre, right? So for me, it's just fantasy's always been the genre that like I've wanted to read. And sci-fi, it's weird. Like I'm finding it odd that I'm like writing a sci-fi because it's not my favorite genre. Like I read Hitchhikers earlier this year and I thought it was okay. Like I gave it a 3 out of 5. I always rate my stuff on a 5 scale and I was like, it's enjoyable, like it's a good read, but I don't think I'll continue on with the series. And then with other sci-fi books, like I've had issues with them and stuff like that. So it's odd that this is now what I'm writing.
Yeah, well, I'm writing fantasy. I don't feel like I feel like I've been a lifelong lover of fantasy, but when I think back on like all the fantasy books I've read, it really isn't that much.
Mm-hmm.
I really only started diehard reading fantasy during the pandemic. I actually read more like mystery and thriller books.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's why I really enjoyed reading, and I feel like that's influenced my style a lot and what I enjoy and why I kind of butt heads about why certain parts of the genre rub me the wrong way is because I'm coming from this more fast-paced genre.
Sure. Daniel's point here is
Daniel makes a good point because I don't remember who it was. I forget. It was a very popular fantasy author, and I think one of his fans called him out on his own world.
Oh, really?
That he got wrong. When later on. Yeah, I mean, I guess it happens in fantasy too. You just have to really, once you get to initially make a rule, but once you make the rule, you kind of have to either explain why you might have changed it or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I would be curious to know which author.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I saw this. I don't even know. I think it was on Twitter, but it might have been somewhere else. It was a while ago. It might have even been like Facebook or something like that. But yeah, someone like totally like was angry and said you said it was this and that, and it's like, what?
I had taken a long break from fantasy. I had taken a long break from reading in general because grad school just like completely made me not want to read anything ever again. And of course, when COVID and pandemic and everything like happened, a lot of people got back into reading. I just spent most of it playing World of Warcraft. So I was like, I don't have time for books. And it's only really been since last December that I've jumped back in again wholeheartedly because I was watching BookTube. Like BookTube really is responsible for my getting back into fantasy reading. So I'm really grateful for the community of BookTube. But it's interesting when you are coming from different genres because like for the last several years I had only really been reading historical books and I was like, okay, some of them read wonderfully if like you like history, they're very fascinating, but some of them are so dry that you're just sitting there going, how has it only been 2 pages? It feels like it's been 200 pages. So it's nice to get back to a genre where I feel like so much happens and it's just you just want to keep turning the page. Of course, like you'll come across some books that you don't really feel about that way, but there's just so many options within fantasy now that you have all these subgenres that it's really remarkable. Honestly, fantasy is just my favorite.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like about the fantasy genre. I mean, like when you're talking about crime and thriller books, like the whole genre has like very distinct tropes and the functions, but fantasy has so many different flavors and so many different types of stories. Like I know I lean more towards like dark fantasy, grimdark. Surprise.
Have you read First Law?
I have read The Blade itself, and then I meant to get around to Before They Are Hanged, and that was 8 years ago.
Oh, jeez.
But I really love The Blade itself. I went through a phase, as in like literally only last year I started actually finishing trilogies. So
fair enough.
I was really bad about reading one book and be like, wow, I'm going to read the second book.
Yeah.
Someday.
I get overzealous sometimes and I have to slow myself down and be like, okay, no, you can't start like 7 series at once. You need to finish one before you start the next. one?
I'm
Um,
quietly remaining silent over here because I started Senland Ascends. I have not continued the series yet. I loved it. I haven't continued it yet. Red Rising, I stopped at 3. I liked it. Haven't finished it yet. It's
Yeah.
but here I am picking up more series.
It's hard though when you have all these, like fantasy specifically, I feel like is the biggest culprit of this. But you have all these series that are 7, 8, 10, 14 books. Like it's daunting to be a fantasy reader a lot of the time, especially for new readers. Like my husband and I were talking about this yesterday because I personally feel that most series should be capped by 7 books. I'm like, really beyond that point, like, and we were talking pretty much exclusively about Wheel of Time because he's of the opinion that the books really waver in the middle and it's a bit of a slog. And I was saying, growing up reading Harry Potter, I was like 7 felt like a really good number because at that point there was enough stuff for 7 books, but it then didn't feel redundant going forward. And then we were talking about First Law, and I was like, First Law has 2 trilogies, so 6 books, and then 3 standalones, but like they're different. So it's under like the 7 books or whatever. But 7 just seems to be like a good number for fantasy series. But it's exhaustive to say, like, oh, I want to go read X and then think, okay, there's more than 3 books or whatever when you have all these other trilogies and stuff you want to get to. It's difficult.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's like, like you said, you start even a 7-book series. Well, technically, I mean, you could donate all of your time to that series and maybe do like 2 or 3 a month and then maybe finish the series in a couple of months. But, ideally, you usually do 1 a month. So it's like, okay, there's 7 months of my life to this series. And then, I mean, Malazan's kind of that way for those of us who are starting it. I mean, that's going to be, it's a 10-book series. And then that's not counting the Isleton books if we continue. So, I mean, and we're doing once a month. So that's definitely another 10-month commitment, if not longer, because I actually had people, I don't know about you, Caleb, or even you, Laura, but I've had a couple people reach out to me recommending when we get to some of the later books to expand it into 2 months. They say you might need it.
Yeah, I know that I haven't read Malazan or Malazan, however people want to say this book. I don't really know. But, I've seen like good readers take multiple months to do 1 book, and that's starting from even the beginning. And like people say you need like cliff notes and like PowerPoints and stuff. Like I'm so frightened to start this book series.
I haven't really felt like sometimes I need to reference the Dramatis Personae because like there's just so many characters and there's so many different allegiances.
Sure.
But more than anything, I found that I just have to read it slowly. So far, I feel like everything actually matters. Whereas I feel like a lot of times when you're getting exposition about the world or how the government works and stuff like that, and when I'm reading it, I'm usually just like skip. I don't care.
Right.
But
yeah, no, I mean, I'm the same way. I'm like, I started it early. Now, granted, I did read 3 other books for the month already, but I'm only on page 70 right now, and I am taking my time with it.
That's still very good, especially because you've had 3 other books read this month.
Yeah, I mean, and now this and Lions, as I mentioned, is the only 2 main books I have left, and then I have to finish Mistborn, but I'm doing Mistborn on audio, so I do that during work.
Me too.
Yeah,
I switched to audio
How do you
halfway
find
through.
the audio for it?
I like it better than actually reading it.
So
same.
Who's the narrator for that?
The same guy who did Wheel of Time.
That's what I thought. Okay, so I am now trying Wheel of Time on audio, and I had tried to read my physical copy multiple times, and I'm finding the audio way better. So I found that interesting because I didn't typically like his voice for a few other audiobooks that I had picked up, but it seems to work. Yeah, Michael Kramer. It seems to work well for at least Eye of the World. That's my opinion. I have no idea how it sounds for Mistborn.
That's so funny. The first time I went to go read Wheel of Time, I read the first 3 on audiobook, and then gave up when I saw The Shadow Rising was 40 hours long. I was like, nope. But once I reread Eye of the World last year, I enjoyed reading it so much more than I did listening to it, because I feel like there were so many moments where I would just zone out during listening to it.
Yeah, I could totally see that. For me, when I read it the first time, I found that Jordan was so descriptive that it was exhausting to me. And I was just like, I don't care about what color the split riding dress is or how long the grass is. Like, to me, it didn't matter. But listening to it, I'm like, oh, the descriptors are so much better when I'm actually listening, because then I can like force myself to picture it better. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever go back and reread Eye of the World. The audio
It sounds like it's not. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like
everyone, it works differently for everyone, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I really did not like Eye of the World the first time I listened to it. Probably because I didn't listen to half of it. But reading it again, it was a little hard for me to get into. But once I really got into it, once I kind of accepted the sluggish pace, sure, I really enjoyed it. I mean, in Eye of the World, right? Rand and Matt spend half the book walking down a road.
A little bit, yeah.
And like by the time you get to the end of that, I was like, God, fuck, that was painful. That took forever. I was like, oh, that was probably how it felt for them too. That was kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's actually one of my favorite parts of that first book was that because you're feeling the stress and you're feeling like, oh my God, we're never going to get where we need to go, because it was such a long journey. But then you look on the map, it's like, oh my God, it's right there. Go.
10 miles.
I don't see all these little towns on this map.
But yeah, so like, in a weird way, the slowness like really kind of like got you into how hard it was for them. So
that's a good way of looking at it. I'm gonna take that going forward for the rest of the story. I'm about, I think, 56% through the audiobook.
Okay, so you're on the road.
Yes, I'm very much on the road.
You'll be there for a while.
Yeah, it seems like I'm going to be there for quite some time, but I'm okay with that, because honestly, I listen to it while I'm working too, or like if I go to the gym and stuff like that, I have it on, which it's good background.
Caleb, if you ever get back to First Law, I recommend the audio.
It's so good.
Told me. So
amazing.
I really want to.
So
I loved the Blade itself, because I read it like not too long after it came out. I think it was a couple years after it came out. And people I knew were like split on it. Like some of them loved it. Some of them were like, I hate all the characters. They're all horrible. But that's what was awesome about it. Like, is it Glotka?
Glotka is like my favorite character.
Yeah, loved him. He was amazing.
Love him so much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And when you hear the audio, you're just gonna be like, you'll be in the middle of a torture scene, and you're just gonna be laughing your head off because
oh my gosh, yeah,
Lacey does Glotka. It's just hilarious.
Okay, so, I'll get back into on the audio then.
Chris, because you've heard the audio too, when you read Glotka, did you imagine him with a lisp? Because I didn't, and then when I heard it, I was like, that is so brilliant to add in.
Yeah, somebody else mentioned this to me. Now I know when you read the book, I think he's missing like all of his teeth.
A few teeth, yeah. It's like they're like odd ones, yeah.
Yeah, so you need your tongue when you're speaking words. So I imagined like, I did imagine like maybe not a lisp, but maybe like a whistle.
Okay, all right. I didn't.
Like maybe like after you like either before or after you speak, there's like a slight whistle. I can't whistle, but to the words, but I can't imagine how hard that would be for a audio narrator to like, try to get a whistle in after they speak, or that would be probably annoying to listen to after a while too.
Yeah,
but I think he went with the lisp, and I think I was like, that works. I think that
so
really
good.
Worked so well. Yeah.
Oh my God, Stephen Pacey did such a good job. I had listened to a review and they were saying, if you're going to listen to anything on an audiobook ever, it should be First Law. And I was like, I don't like audiobooks, whatever. And then I picked it up and I was like, oh my God, they were so right. This is so, so good.
Yeah,
He's the best.
it definitely spoiled me though too. So it's like
Oh, yeah.
I forget who I was listening to after, and I'm like, it was a great narrator, but I was like, not Stephen
Not
Pacey.
Stephen Pacey. Yeah. I feel that way now too about Andy Serkis because I just listened to him reading The Hobbit and I'm going to listen to him doing The Fellowship of the Ring. And he did, I think he said 180 unique voices for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I was like, based on what I heard in The Hobbit, like, I'm not surprised. The man is amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, next time I try Lord of the Rings, I plan on listening to it with Andy Serkis. So
Oh, it's so
Same.
good.
Yeah.
He also just did the Silmarillion, so my plan is like to keep Audible basically until I get through all of the things with Andy Serkis. That's my plan.
I usually keep Audible for as long as they give me cheap deals.
That's fair.
So I've got 3 months of Audible because they're like, you can get 3 months for 99 cents. It's like, all right, cancel in 3 months.
And they'll keep you around, so you know you just keep getting those deals, and it's just
Well,
like,
that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to sprint until the hour?
Let's do it.
let's
Perfect.
do it.
And we're back.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm like always looking for my camera button. I'm just like, where is it?
How big is your room that you film in? Because I can never tell because of how your bookshelves are.
Okay, so what you see behind me is like this little alcove kind of thing, and it just kind of works perfectly. It's like the wall goes a little longer this side, but there's this like little alcove. I think we use this. I think this room was technically the master bedroom, and and this alcove was where the bed is supposed to be, and then it goes this way. But we use one of the smaller rooms for the bedroom because we're not in there except to sleep, you know.
Yeah.
So we utilize the larger room for because there's a lot more going on this way. There's my TV for what I watch upstairs. There's more bookshelves. There's my collectibles. Where I put a bunch of Lego sets on them. And
Nice. That's my
Yeah.
husband too. Loves Lego.
Lego's awesome. So yeah, this made a little perfect cubbyhole for the bookshelves, but
Yeah, that's awesome.
definitely no more room. So I do have some empty shelves on the bottom, so as soon as these fill up, I'm gonna have to just do my first unhaul.
Ooh, that's always hard.
I don't know what I'm gonna unhaul. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm a hoarder. I mean, not like garbage, but you know, when it comes to books,
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough.
my general stance for unhauling books is when I read this originally, did I give it more than 3 stars? And would I ever reread it myself or hope that my kid would read it at some point? And I'm like, if the answer is no, then I can probably part with it. But even still, it's a little sting.
That's why I read everything on Kindle. That
Do
way,
you really?
That way, if I do end up getting a book, it's because I want it on my teeny tiny little shelf.
Yeah.
But I read almost exclusively from the library, or I buy it on Kindle. So
Very nice.
Good for you.
Very cost efficient. Very good.
Debate.
I wish I was
on how much I feel like spending on
cost-efficient.
Kindle.
I wish I could, but
Yeah, I'm not. I buy a book before I've read it. I'm really unhealthy in that way.
Well, that's what's great about the ebooks is like, you know, the ebook you're spending like max $10 on it. I'm also like a cheapskate, so I will wait for it to go on sale. So
now the good news for like the top two shelves on this one are self-pub, and a lot of those, you know, I get from, you know, people reaching out. So I don't buy everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Someday I hope self-pubs will reach out to me.
I've become a really big fan of Pango. I've been buying secondhand books on there, but they're like new quality, which is really, really nice.
Nice.
So yeah, I ended up getting I think I've ordered over the last 2 months like 20 some odd books from Pango, and I calculated it like I was uploading them into my cart and then uploading them into an Amazon cart just to see the price difference at the end of it, and I think it was like $150 difference between Amazon and Pango. And the books were brand new when they got to me. So yeah, highly recommend Pango if you're not using it.
I am not using it.
Well, now you could be.
But I try to what I try to do is I try to use like actual like author websites if they have one. I try to of course avoid Amazon. I mean, it's very tempting that, you know, like I need that book on my shelf now, 2-day, you know, 1 day, 2 day shipping, but I try to avoid it, you know, honestly, especially if they're self-pub. I will definitely go to their website first.
Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of the unfortunate thing about reading on Kindle, right? Is especially if I want to read self-pub books, which I do. Like I'm pretty much tied into the ecosystem. But I read an article in NPR like 2 months ago. Bookshop is gonna have an ebook service rolling out later this year. So
That's cool.
It's awesome.
yeah, so hopefully
Yeah,
I
right.
can stop giving Amazon $1 or $2 at a time.
When did you switch over to ebooks? Like, have you always preferred ebook reading or?
No, I haven't always preferred ebook reading. Probably 5 years ago. Yeah, because that's when I moved. That's when I was done with school and was able to move across the state. And I had to offload a lot of books. And we just had our second kid, and even then, it was apparent that like it was either going to be the books or the children, and I'm legally required to keep them. So it was the books.
Tough choices. I hear
But it's also just been easier because generally I read at night anyway. I'm like doing it as I go to bed, so like it's more convenient. I can take the Kindle
Sure.
with me and have 5 books, you know. So I acquired a taste for it, and then I also realized that I just read ebooks faster. I don't know what it is about the psychology of it, but I will burn through an ebook. But even like a 300-page book, if I'm looking at it, it will take me forever. So
you. Oh, interesting.
I finally bought an e-reader a month ago.
Which one did you go with?
The Paperwhite, I think. Yeah, I think it was like a little over $100. I think that's the Paperwhite. I still prefer physical copies, but yeah, I got to think practical. You know, as this expands, this is it. I mean, I'm not buying any more bookshelves.
You
things
say
that
that now.
I say that now. Well, I mean, I'm physically, there's no room. I got too many hobbies going on, so
I hear you. This is my dining room, so I get you.
yeah. I got my Lego hobby, which is also kind of takes over. Now we have a 3rd bedroom that's the Lego room specifically, because we have all the sterilite drawers of Lego. Because
That's like my husband's dream.
because both me and my spouse build Lego, and we go to conventions for Lego. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know they had Lego conventions.
Yeah, they're all over. Maryland, I think your closest one is Virginia.
Probably, yeah.
It's Brick something. It's Brick World. I think it is in Virginia.
Okay.
But there's one in Chicago. There's one in Alabama. There's one where I live in Seattle. There's, I think, a couple in Canada. Brickcan is one of them. I went to that actually last 2 months ago, and that's in Vancouver. So,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun,
I can
and
imagine that.
it's a whole separate nerd trifecta there. So.
I can see that. My husband still has like
Lord.
bins of it, waiting for our daughter being an age that she can use it. And I'm like, I'm so glad you have all this, because now this would be like $1 million for Legos.
Yeah. And I think Lego is finally catering to the adult. If you ever been to a Lego store, you can tell the sets that are kind of a little more towards the adult theme. You know, they're display pieces kind of thing.
Yeah, I was at Target and I saw one that was like a recreation of like a Fender guitar, and I was tempted to get back into Lego for the first time in like 20 years.
That's pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah, it looked really cool. My wife and I have all kinds of different hobbies and things that we do, and we all have to pack it into this room behind me. She has like a resell. She resells vintage clothes.
Oh, cool.
So that's what all that behind me is. It's not my wardrobe. And then my set for YouTube is over here on my wall. That's a total lie. And then my desk is just an array of different paints and models I'm working on. So
very cool.
Right, you do Warhammer, right?
Oh yeah, I do. I do the Warhammer.
Oh my gosh, do you collect all that?
I'm doing BattleTech right now, but
oh my gosh, good for you.
It's something. I don't quite collect. I'm shockingly reserved on it because I'm a really bad impulse buyer, and Games Workshop, the people who do Warhammer, their whole business model is FOMO. They're like, you can only get in this box, and it's only available for 2 weeks.
That looks like a dangerous path to go down.
Yeah,
I feel like that too.
I've had to develop an exceeding amount of resilience.
I've been to those gaming stores because I play D&D and Pathfinder. I told you, like any kind of nerd thing, probably I do it.
I love D&D.
But I've been to those gaming stores and seeing that Warhammer stuff. Holy buckets! You have to be wealthy. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's
you
like-
do. I agree. Like we used to live in Richmond, Virginia, and there was a dedicated Warhammer store. And whenever we would go buy it, I'm like, how do they stay in business? Like this is so expensive.
People will spend the money. It's gotten better in the past couple of years because beforehand you're like, well, yes, you technically only need to spend $100 to buy your first set, but if you want to actually play the game, you need to spend like $2,000. They've redone some games and they've scaled a lot of things down where like the barrier to entry to actually do something is not so high. Like I play a skirmish version. You need like 10 models which come in one box, so
that's not too bad.
Nice. Yeah, that's not too bad. Manageable. Yeah.
And then also, yeah, if I was going to say, if you guys wanted to, I wouldn't recommend playing Warhammer starting out. It's way too complicated. Play a different game. Play BattleTech.
I like D&D, honestly. I stick to D&D and then like
D&D just came out
games.
So,
that's my cap at the moment. I don't have much mental capacity for more things.
I'm somewhat of an enigma among my friends because we were all theater students. They all love D&D. I'm the theater guy that doesn't like musical theater or D&D. So,
I love both.
it's not that I dislike D&D. I just don't feel like role playing really intensely all the time. Like I'll do one shots every 6 months or so.
Sure.
But my improv classes were my worst classes. So maybe it's just like I hated my teacher. So maybe it's just it brings back bad memories.
Do you Laura, do you hardcore role play when you play? I mean, we kind of just talk in our normal voices. Our DMs don't usually sometimes they'll make us say how we're fighting something. They'll tell us, describe what you're doing here, not just tell me that you're gonna cast this spell or use your sword or something.
I feel like our DMs are generally pretty chill with that, but sometimes we'll have music on that changes for fight scenes and calm scenes and stuff like that, and we go in and out of voices. We have 2 campaigns going now simultaneously. My husband's DMing one and then our friend is doing another, so I find that in one campaign we're more apt to doing voices than we are the other for some reason. I feel like maybe because our characters are more ridiculous in one campaign than they are in the other, because we decided for one of them that we were going to start everyone at level 12, so everyone is just murderous and it's delightful to play, but everyone is more serious, I feel like, as opposed to our other one where it's we've got a gnome running around with half goggles and stuff like that. So it's a weird mix of the two. So we get to be both ends of it, I feel like. So it's fun, but we play both with the same group of people. So it's fun in that way too, because we can see how we play differently.
Nice.
But yeah, I love it. I wish we had more time for it. We get maybe one session in a month now if we're lucky.
Oh, wow. Okay. We're dedicated to Sundays. Me, my spouse, and the group we play with, about 4 other people.
That's awesome.
We have 3 recycling games going on right now. My spouse is running one, and then 2 of those people from that group are running the other 2. And one of them is because there was one of the group guys is always kind of out sometimes, so we decided to start another one that just had that would be the one we would play when he wasn't available to play with us. So yeah, and it just went that way. But the longest one I have going on, I have a shaman witch. He's level 16 now.
Oh, nice.
We're almost done with that. But he was a lot of fun to play. A lot of you just fuck people over, with disabilities and all. Mm-hmm. And then and then when you talk about role play, and I get where Caleb is coming with this, because it's kind of out of my comfort zone too. I did theater too a lot when I was in my 20s and all that, and but improving and like coming up with dialogue right out of the bat, and I'm playing a bard in this other one,
Are
so
you?
I have to be the speaker. Like the witch is easy. I just stand in the back, and whenever there's battle, then I can do my shit. But when you're the speaker of the group, it's like, oh god, why did I pick this character?
It's hard.
But
It definitely took me a long time to feel comfortable, just because like the games that I had been used to playing were like World of Warcraft, and I was like, I don't have to put on a voice or anything. Like I can be in my own little fantasy world and stuff like that, but I'm still me when we're on Discord or whatever. At that point, when I started playing, it was Ventrilo. So, it dates it a little bit, but my characters now for D&D, I have my level 12 is a drow necromancer whom I love because she hates everything. And she's just delightful. I like her so much.
What's her alignment?
I'm starting a new character actually in my husband's campaign. I was playing a human who had like special skills in diplomacy, which was fine. But I'm going to be playing a dwarf who has been, her father is like a top blacksmither. And because of this, she's been like kept in the mountain most of her life by a forge. So she has this like extreme fascination with plants and trees. And I'm really excited to play her because she's like super friendly and weird. So for her, I figure I'll probably do a voice. But I think it's probably too because I'm comfortable with the group of people that I know. Like if I was dropped in a group of strangers, I might be a bit more reserved with it.
But it's fun. But anytime I play, it's usually my friend from grade school DMing it, and he says that he's excited to one day play an actual campaign with me where I can't do the characters that I play in one shots. Because I'll play stuff like, I'm an orc that just gets really aggressive, but also can't speak, so he can't convey why he's angry. Nice. Or a kobold who doesn't speak common, so I just speak in barks.
So that's so funny you bring that up, Kayla, because the third game I was telling you guys about, I deliberately played I'm a monk. Shadow monk that is a mute, and he's one of the feline races. So, but I made him deliberately mute, so I didn't have to, because I got, because the bard, doing all the yapping in that one, I was like, I'm not playing another yappy character. So, but I'm mute, but I was also the alert system, and it never dawned on any of us. So we're at camp, and I'm sitting in a tree, and the DM rolled, and there's going to be a random encounter, and I just realized I can't alert my party because I'm mute.
Mm-hmm. Need like a flare gun or something.
He's like, so how are you alerting your group? And I'm like, meow, meow, because but I fixed that. I bought a whistle when we went into town.
That's like so fun. Whistle. So did you and your spouse start playing D&D together, or was it something that like you did independently and then you came together and did together?
We were independent on both of it. They're a little more into it than I was. I would never DM. I could never spend the time, because they're take that to bed and just researching everything. It's
wow, yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and I can't imagine. And I always feel bad when we just foil everything when we're playing the game.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh man, I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. Because it's like you could tell there was like this hardcore plan, and then I just like witch spell them like to sleep or something, and then we just like wail on them. And,
100%. Yeah, my husband will I'll see the pages of notes for our sessions, and then it's like if we make one decision, we skip to page 5, and I'm like, oh. It's just sorry. It's fun though. So if you ever do give it another go, Caleb.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I wouldn't mind playing more because I'm really interested in playing Pathfinder. I think it's just a time thing. I mean, 3 kids. I play Warhammer. I do YouTube. I write. I don't have the time, I think, right now. So
I hear you. Yeah, that's the same with us. Like we get it in once a month or twice a month. Like we're lucky.
Yeah, and I think the Sundays are really important to me because it is a break from everything else I'm doing.
Yeah, and it kind of sets you up for your week, right?
Yeah, I'm away from Discord a little, at least for the first 4 hours, because it's only a 4-hour session.
Sure.
But I'm away from Discord. I'm away from YouTube. I'm away from my writing. I'm away from like Caleb. So it's just your life, and sometimes you just need
The
that
separation.
that time, and it's great. But
Mhm.
I love what I'm doing with BookTube and all that.
Sure.
But yeah,
But I do find though, like sometimes you do need a little bit of. I'm an analytics person, so like I check that stuff. Like I know not everyone does, and I envy them in that way. But like I upload a video and I'm like, oh, how's it doing?
No, I'm the same way. I
So-
like refresh every 10 minutes.
Yeah, and like last week I did something where I uploaded a short pretty much every single day. I did all the major first law characters, and then I found myself.
I liked all your posts, but
Thank
I
you.
don't know how you do those shorts. I know they're probably very good for you analytically, but I don't know if I can.
That's the thing. Like I was like, I'm just gonna try it and
about?
see.
Because I'm a rambler. I just ramble. I am not a. When I'm filming a video, I cut a flick load, of material
same.
because I'm a rambler.
I just have to cut all the moments where I start off in the space.
See, I've just learned to like all the idiotic things I do. I just let's just throw them in at the end.
I like that, and I've started using that a little bit, especially whenever my cat like comes and jumps and like starts rubbing my camera and stuff. I'm like, people like cats. At the end, it goes.
Yeah. It's like you should call it like whatever your cat's name is, Cat's Corner or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
They get their own little time.
Well, I appreciate you guys doing sprints with me, but I am needing to go to bed. But
I'm hungry.
that works perfectly then. But
oh yeah, it's dinner time for you.
yeah, West Coast, you need to eat. Caleb, where are you? Are you East Coast, West Coast, middle?
Yeah, I'm in Indiana, so I'm the very edge of Eastern time. So
Gotcha.
You guys, I lived in Indiana. Do you? There was a time, didn't we not like set our clocks back in Indiana?
I think I was probably a kid when that happened because I vaguely remember that.
Do they do that now? Okay.
Yeah, like middle school time.
Because I remember we would like go to Eastern time to Central time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I forget which one it was. I think it was Central during winter and Eastern during summer. It was one of those, or vice versa.
Very confusing.
Yeah. Right now we're back on the regular daylight savings time. So
I'm hoping that we're done. Like apparently it might be that they're getting rid of it, and I'm really hoping that's the case because no, we just don't.
Yeah. When I want to go to bed early and it's like the sun is like I don't know what it is with the West Coast. I feel like the sun is up at 10 o'clock in the night, and I'm just like, what the go away.
You guys go to bed at 10 o'clock.
What's that?
You guys go to bed at 10 o'clock.
Some days, if I'm tired, I will go to bed early.
It doesn't really, for whatever reason, I have such a hard time going to bed. I can have the most exhausting, brutal day at work and lay in bed at 10 o'clock and then just stare at the wall until 2 in the morning.
That was me last night. I was like, oh. I was so tired, and I was just sitting there going, we're going to be awake for the next 4 hours.
It takes me a while to go to bed, definitely. Yeah, even if I'm dead tired. And that's why I try early. That way, at least if I fall asleep, it's still kind of at a decent time.
Yeah.
But if I go if I go to bed at midnight, I'll be up until 3 in the morning. Trying to get to sleep. So
Well, on that note, everybody, have a great night. Thanks for tuning in to do sprints with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I got a lot written. I'm happy. I hope you guys did too.
Yeah, I got
I
to give it a
did,
work.
yeah. I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Thanks everybody in the chat too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do it again maybe later this week or next week or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Take it easy.
Take care.